Welcome to the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership Podcast. Subscribe now so you don't miss a drop of straight talk you can't get anywhere else. We discuss the whiskeys to drink, music to listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader. I'm your host, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. Tonight's guest, author and leadership authority, Jan Cerny. Hey, what you drinking? Wow. See that listeners, this is what you get. This is what you get when you talk with a real leader. I want to get into this book because I know the challenge that goes into writing a book. I know the challenge that goes into making your thoughts make sense because, as I like to say, I'm brilliant inside my head. inside my head, inside my brain, boy, I make all the sense in the world. It's about when you put it on paper that you start finding opportunities. And so I understand the, again, vulnerability of trying to put your thoughts that make sense inside of your head on paper. But this is something that you put right up front that just really captured me. And I'm going to read some from your book. And I'm going to just tell you, this always made me nervous when I had someone reading from my book to me, hearing my words back at me. So I'm going to put you on the spot. But right up front, you talk about wayfinding. And you say that this book is about people that you call wayfinders, people who possess the knowledge and skills to navigate unknown and challenging territories. And then you say the wayfinders described in this book are enterprise leaders who have leveraged their experience, insights, core values, determination, and resilience to lead their organizations through the daunting waters of change and transformation towards organizational renewal and growth. Wow. I mean, just to, I know that it takes all of that to be an effective leader, but to see all of that in one sentence, in one paragraph, that it requires someone to leverage their experience, their insights, their core values, their determinations, their resilience in order to be an effective leader, let alone a change leader. That's got to make you pause a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does. I have such tremendous respect for the people who I've represented in this book, and similar respect for those I interviewed who are not included in this book because they helped me to know where I wanted to focus more attention. And they also validated my basic idea. Okay. They were important people. So the people in this book sat with me, didn't know me from Adam. They were generally people to whom I was introduced, and they told me everything in the course of 45 minutes to an hour while I sat there with my laptop, taking notes very quickly, hoping that I remembered all the most important things. So they shared their passions, their hearts, their souls, their struggles, their fears, their successes, their tips, and each one of them said, "Whatever you do, this has been a very renewing experience for me reflecting on this." These are people who generally don't have the opportunity to share like this with anyone, and they said, "Whatever you do, please make it possible for other leaders to get the benefit of my challenges and my insights and my successes so that they can be more successful leaders." So everyone all along in this book, and what are we all trying to do? We're all paying for it and helping others to succeed.
I mean, just the magnitude of all the elements that go into being an effective leader. I was really taken by that, and this is personal to people. True leaders have a personal investment, I found, that goes beyond their title. They often get into a leadership position that is warranted by their title. And as I've said in my book, that, leadership brings with it a certain degree of protection from insubordination, right? If you got a higher position on the org chart, people are going to do what you say to a certain degree just because you got a higher position on the org chart. But true leadership causes people to want to follow. It involves tapping into minds and hearts. And I just love the way that you pulled together all the elements that make that possible. There's another part here that captured my imagination. There's just so much here. I could literally read the entire book when talking about things that captured my imagination. But when you talked about change versus transformation, and I'm going to read just a part of this. You say change is hard, and then there's a period, full stop. Initiatives that target specific processes, existing practices, and technologies, even the intent only to incrementally improve, always creates discomfort. And then you drop down, you say, some people will distress over the need to learn new skills. Some people will struggle to adopt new behaviors. Some people will suffer with the loss of status. Some may lose their job. But transformation, on the other hand, is different, typically more holistic, more complex, with profusion of moving parts. Transformation may require fundamental shifts in the organization's identity, purpose, values, and mindsets. While incremental change strategies tend to be surgical, transformation strategies can cut to the swath like a broad sword through the organization's whole being, generating a tsunami of pushback. Transformation is comprehensive, far reaching, and significantly more difficult to achieve. And oh my. Talk a little bit about just and I collapsed a couple of paragraphs to make a point, but talk a little bit about the distinction between change and transformation, because to your point, change by itself is hard. But when you start talking about transformation, that's a whole nother level of hard. So just talk a little bit about the words that you've captured in your masterpiece here.
So, for example, the president of a system of hospitals in the course of her career had to introduce continuous improvement. Healthcare, you got to get better and better and better. People, when you go to the doctor, you don't want someone to make things worse. You need to come with some certainty that they're going to make things better. So, how to do that with all of the complicated medical issues that people bring, with all of the complicated medical solutions? How do you create an environment of continuous improvement? And she thought, oh, this is a slam dunk piece of cake initially, but discovered that as she introduced this, all of the different groups basically were against her. After they were able to allow themselves to appreciate what each other, their colleagues, were saying about their groups, then they all joined in arms and in force against her for wanting to get them into these Six Sigma continuous improvement processes. And she said, well, at least they were united against me. That's progress. Now, here's what what a frame of mind. She said, that's progress. They were united against me. Now I needed to figure out how to get them so that they will move forward. And I was able to, what she said that was magical, she said, I had to let go of the whole notion of saying that introducing this change, and this was incremental change, that introducing this change was about me being a successful leader. It's really about helping them be successful as the leaders of their different medical practices to deliver excellence in healthcare. And once I reached that point, it's not about me and my
Yeah.
power, it's about them. Then all of the right forces came together, began to coalesce, and those leaders of the different practices created a strategy for continuous improvement far greater than any that she could have arrived at.
Mm.
Now, There's another situation of let's talk about transformation. So that's continuous improvement. So that's hard in itself. Transformation. One of the people I interview in the book is a CIO of a large institution, and he was asked to join the institution because the prior leader had kind of gone amok and things were not working the way they should have been working, ran a punitive environment, doing a lot of people playing favors, performance not necessarily being recognized. No one felt comfortable raising their hand to say, I think we need to call a halt to this thing because it's not working and do something else. No one felt comfortable doing that. And he joined in order to turn things around. So he wants to have an innovative systems organization, technology organization for his firm. But no one's afraid of taking the chance of coming up with new ideas because that was never rewarded or recognized before. And if you had a new idea and you failed at it, you would be punished. So one of the things that he had to do was to change the culture of that organization to one recognized people, gave them the safety of a voice to raise issues that needed to be addressed, and began to recognize them for their accomplishments. But he also said, you know what you have to do? You have to turn failure into opportunity. He not only said that, but another of the leaders I interviewed who ran a technology startup for a financial sector, he said the same thing. You've got to turn failure into opportunity. You've got to create a learning environment. We're going to learn from our failures. The person I interviewed in the chapter called Orion, he's the business startup guy. And he says, the only way that you can get all of these smart people to stop fighting with each other over whose idea is best is get them to start trying things and being comfortable with failure and learning from those. He said, I would take the one or two projects that were our greatest mistakes during the course of the year, and I would turn them into big debriefs where we all sat around the table and talked about, okay, what could we have done differently or better? So changing to a different type of culture, one that revolves around curiosity, revolves around learning, revolves around affirmation of people's efforts in addition to reward for their successes. That was a bigger challenge. And Harvard Business Review and a few others say that when it comes to any kind of change, not only the incremental, the continuous improvement, but the culture change, the changing our direction entirely, those are the kinds of changes that they say fail 70% of the time. Now, frankly, I think that number is high. If they say failed, they may not mean completely failed 70% of the time, but I think that number is high. But they're basically trying to set the tone that I recognize in my experience as a leader in a range of organizations and coaching other leaders in a range, that there's going to be pushback. There's going to be stuff you didn't think about. There are going to be processes that are brand new for people. You're going to have people who are fearful of all of those things that you read from one of the paragraphs there. All of that will work against you. You're a Sun Tzu fan, and from a Sun Tzu, I've seen a lot of leadership books on Sun Tzu too, but he's a war strategist, Chinese war strategist. And what I would liken change to in Sun Tzu is change is the enemy, okay? And you've got to be prepared to deal with the enemy in ways that Sun Tzu would say. You got to know the climate. You got to know the terrain. You've got to know your people. You've got to know the enemy in ways that, say, all right, is my organization ready to do this? Have they the ability to overcome our latest challenges and move on? Are they resilient? Do they trust their leaders? Is the leadership team that I've engaged with me to lead this change, are they trusted by the people? Do we have a clear plan? Are we prepared to communicate it effectively and consistently and repeatedly throughout the process? Recognize our successes, reward and celebrate those, and continue to help those people who are struggling in new roles to learn what they need to learn in order to take us where we need to go. So, there was some. I pulled together a few comparisons with some of what Sun Tzu talks about.
Ah, I love the points that you're highlighting. I'd like to let's take a step back just a little bit. I'd love to understand why was this book important for you to share with the world? I believe that there are phases that we each go through, or should go through in our careers, but in our time here on the planet. That first phase is a period of learning. We all have to learn how to be human. We all have to learn how to do a job. We have to learn how to do a thing. So that first phase is learning. The second phase is really around doing, right? How do you do the thing that you learn to do, right? How can I generate some degree of productivity in some space? And you're typically compensated for that productivity. But once you've done for a bit, I think that there's a responsibility to teach and to share what you've learned, not necessarily just about the tactical elements of how to do a thing, but what are the lessons that you've learned during the learning phase, during the doing phase? What's the wisdom that you want to share to others so that whatever it is that you're passionate about can continue, can grow, can mature? And so I'm curious, how did you know it was time to step into that third phase of not just doing, but sharing the wisdom, sharing the lessons that you've learned, and lessons that some of the people that you've interviewed have learned as well?
The people I interviewed deeply inspired me. That really drove me to want to do something with what I learned from them. They inspired me with their intellect, their courageousness. For example, one of the leaders was the CEO of an organization that decided to acquire another organization that was about 6 to 7 times the size of her organization at the start. And she said everything that she dared to try to accomplish was dependent upon how well people trusted her.
Mm.
And so we talked a lot about trust in the course of that interview. Uh, Her story was inspiring. I was inspired by the story of the CIO who joined an organization and wanted to transform it into one that would generate innovation out of the technology groups. And in fact, he's won numerous awards, I think in CIO magazine, for healthcare, for innovative applications of technology in healthcare. He inspired me. I was inspired by the woman who wanted to transform how people, immigrants to this country, refugees to this country, could become fully operative citizens, giving back to the community because of the reflection that she had of her own mother coming from another country to raise her. I was inspired by that story. The sacrifices that people made, their humility, the humility in particular to talk with me, who vast majority of these people didn't know me from Adam, as I said, and to share some of the things that they struggled with. I admired the community leader who told me that he thought he'd been doing a great job as a leader, but he didn't really realize what leadership was all about until he went to a Harvard program for community leaders, people who were investing in transforming communities that showed some potential. And he said, Jan, until I went to this program, I thought I knew it all. And I went to this program and realized that everything I thought I knew, I didn't know at all. When someone tells you a story like that, and humbly shares, a story like that with you, and then goes on to talk, because we talk about their successes and how they build on these things. I was just immensely inspired by them. And what I heard, some of it resonated with me because of my experiences, but otherwise, I learned so much just in talking with them. That told me, you know what? That plus their request, share what we're sharing with you with other leaders. That and plus what I've learned said, Jan, you got to write a book. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know. Well, that's going to be hard, and I've never done it. Yeah, but I had to get over all of that. And here, Galen, this is why I'm talking to you. I'm an introvert, and here I am doing a podcast. What's that about?
It,
It's about my promise to those people.
I love it. I just love the commitment to the cause. And one of the things we're running out of time, but I got to sneak this in because I'm always appreciative, and you gain like three more notches for me when I found out that you're also a Miles Davis fan. And we gotta talk a little bit about the jazz element of this work that you've done. So Miles Davis, Boney James, two totally different kinds of musicians, but both of them play very strong in the space of improvisation. How did jazz? What role did jazz play in you pulling together this work? Did this, I mean, was this exact, did this go exactly according to plan? You sketch out exactly what you want to happen. And oh my gosh, all the folks that you wanted to interview, they said yes the first time, and no need for edit content for you to include in this book. Or did you have to live in the jazz a little bit?
That's funny. That's a great question that you ask. So the jazz immediately brings to mind the fact that prior to each interview, I sent a note to my interview subject saying, I want to talk with you about leading organization change, what change you led, what the challenges were, how you addressed them. I mean, it was pretty simple. It was very, very simple. And as we began the interview, they'd bring up something and I'd go, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We got to go there. Tell me some more about that. And then talk about that, and we come back to something else that's more directly related to the original questions. And then something else will come up. Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Tell me some more. No, we got to talk about that some more. What happened then, and how did you deal with it? So jazz is the perfect characteristic for the nature of the interviews and how they flowed. And each one was totally different.
And this is what you get. This is what you get when you tune in to Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. I got to get you into the VIP room because my VIPs are absolutely going to love the research based curiosity that you have put on display throughout this work. But before we get into the VIP conversation, what are some final thoughts that you would have for a listener who is curious enough from this conversation to want to pick up a copy of Constellations for leading organizational change? What final thoughts would you want to leave them as they contemplate picking up this incredible masterpiece?
Well, one thought is that the interview subjects will inspire you. Okay. And no matter how much experience a person may have in the world of organization change and leadership, whether you be an HR business partner, an HR VP, an OD practitioner, or leadership coach, no matter what you've already been exposed to, I guarantee that there's something in this book that's going to be new for you. So that's why I suggest give it a shot, take a look,
Well,
discover something new.
well, it's absolutely masterfully done, and I even had the privilege of offering a couple of words on the second page of endorsements behind Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, one of the iconic staples in the coaching industry. But I'm just going to share with you my thoughts about this work. And I'm just going to read again. Jan masterfully navigates through the complex sea of organizational change, drawing from her vast experience and insights gathered from a diverse range of leaders. She delves deeply into the essence of change leadership, underscoring the critical roles and attributes like trust, emotional intelligence, and the ways to adeptly address the challenges of resistance to change. Constellations is more than a book. It's a comprehensive toolkit with rigorous review of relevant research and actionable insights tailored for leaders at all levels. This was incredibly well done. Although I wish that I had this when I was leading organizations in corporate America, I'm just so excited that I have this as a tool and as a resource as I coach leaders all around the world, because many of them are executing not just change, they're trying to execute transformation. So I am so glad that you did not listen to those small, tiny voices encouraging you not to do this work, because this is absolutely needed. Jan, thank you so much. I got to get you into the VIP room. But again, thank you so much for who you are, for what you're doing, and the courage that you display to step into your authenticity, because authenticity is not something that you create. It's something that you choose. I'm so glad that you have chosen your own authenticity.
Thank you, Galen. Thank you for this opportunity. And you are a masterful interviewer. This was fun.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, raise that sparkling soda stream water. I'm gonna raise my Widow Jane, and until we can make it through the glass doors and into the VIP room. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, it's not too late. Hit that subscribe button so you're sure to catch the next episode. If you're really enjoying the vibe, leave us a review or become a VIP for guest and show exclusives. Cheers.